What's up guys, I did a seminar just outside of Montreal this weekend at Impact MMA and one of the black belts was kind enough to volunteer to be on the show. I tried to butterfly sweep David but he bases on his head. I should have readjusted my left foot on the mat to keep driving and lifting but I thought I had it. I try again but this time use more of a scissor sweep motion but this time it's David's elbow that posts. I should have done a better job pulling his arm across his body to prevent the post. I transitioned to an arm in guillotine but they're a lot harder to get in the gi because the gi itself can get in the way. I always like to go path of least resistance and the omoplata looks to be an easier finish right now. I hesitate too long on the arm lock. I was trying to figure out the easiest way to finish but David takes advantage of this and rolls through. If I hadn't hesitated on the arm lock I could have finished it or anticipated his roll better and finished with an armbar off the roll. David frames on my hips so I take advantage of this by forcing the arm to the ground and stapling with my leg. I'm trying to bicep slicer David while simultaneously changing the angle so you guys can see better. I don't get it but I'm in the perfect position for a far side armbar. This is really cool. You're going to see how I made the armbar easy for myself by not allowing David to take defensive grips. I switch which leg is stapling so I can use the original leg that was stapling to step on David's arm. This will stop him from connecting his hands together as I spin around for the finish. Half the battle in finishing an armbar is breaking the defensive grips. If you can avoid them altogether, life gets easier. David takes a grip on his pants but it's not nearly as strong as his hands connected. One small tug is all it takes. Now I can straighten his arm and finish with two hands on the wrist. Sorry for leaving you hanging here, David. My bad. Please don't leave me hanging. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos. Even a fist bump helps the algorithm. I'm in my reverse De La Hiva, which I like to think of as half guard when your opponent is standing. David drops to a knee, which puts me in my half guard. I hit one of my favorite half guard sweeps, the John Wayne sweep. Watch how I shoot my hips underneath David. This makes David nearly weightless. If I hadn't done this, the sweep would require a ton of strength and probably not work. David tried to grab my head to prevent the sweep, which opened up the opportunity to take the underhook as I came up. I always try to take advantageous grips and positions during transitions, as this is when people are able to defend the least. I just love making weird, unflattering faces in 4K on the internet. This is great. David is able to bridge to make space, putting me into his open guard. Both David's legs are in between mine, which is a tougher position to pass from than headquarters. Headquarters, you have their one leg between yours and usually a collar and pant grip. It's a versatile position. I pummel my leg to the inside but realize I'm in more of a left-handed headquarters position, so go to my right side. I want to make sure my arm has inside position, which prevents David from getting a knee shield. David attempts to get an underhook as I knee slide, but by keeping my elbow tight, only his hand can poke through, which isn't a big deal. A deep underhook would be a big deal. If he got a deep underhook, I would have abandoned the knee slide and addressed the underhook. The number one mistake people make when knee sliding is not preventing the underhook. Other mistakes include sliding out too far and not keeping the hips glued to their partner as they slide. I have the back, but David is stopping me from putting in both hooks. David's doing the right thing by only reaching down when he has control of my choking arm with his other hand. That's the only time he can reach down. David does a nice escape, but I retake the back using the Kimura grip. I actually grab it during the transition and use it to spring myself up and put the hooks in. My Kimura trap tutorial is coming up within the next few videos, I promise. This is a cool armbar from Turtle. I take my hook out and bring it over his head and lean back. With proper connection on someone, they will go where you go. I really like the Kimura grip to control the arm for an armbar. It's extremely hard to escape and offers great control. I have David in a triangle position, which offers the threat of the triangle and also makes it harder for him to grip his hands together. The only disadvantage to the Kimura grip is you can't use your hands to help break the grip. You have to rely on your legs, which isn't bad, it's just worth noting. I break the grip with a small explosive tug and now priority is controlling David's wrist. If I have good control of the wrist, it doesn't really matter what he does with the rest of his body. I should be able to get the angle to finish regardless. Poor wrist control is usually the reason for an armbar escape. David shoots in for an over-under pass, but I take advantage of the open elbow and snatch up the Kimura grip. David tries to reverse the Kimura by switching his hips, which is one of my favorite counters. You can actually switch who has the Kimura grip by doing this. It'll be in my tutorial. I lose position but get right back on David. Watch how I lift David by pushing his arm to his belly. A little bump with my right knee puts David's hips above mine. Just like the John Wayne sweep, once the hips are loaded, they're weightless. I always try and take my leg out midway through the sweep so I don't land in half guard, but I'm unable to this time. I backstep and try to take my arm out, but David almost locks up the Kimura for himself. That was a close one. Okay, back in control, and rather than turtling, David sits out, but I get around his legs. And now I just have loose control, seeing what David will give me. I grab the lapel. This is going to make David feel threatened to being choked if he goes to his back, so he goes to his knees, exactly what I wanted. Now I hit the same armbar entry as before, my leg over his head and leaning my weight back forces David's posture to be broken. I've got David secured with my Kimura grip, and again, the hardest part of an armbar generally is extending the arm, but I'm patient. I'm not straining and gunning for the finish. I look to break David's defensive grips and bring my leg over his shoulder. Now he's at risk of the triangle here, or if he gets to his knees. Let me know what your goals are in Jiu-Jitsu right now. Is it getting promoted to the next stripe or belt, competing, getting tapped less? Whatever it is, let me know. This helps me figure out what to focus on in my videos, and I also just love hearing what everyone has to say. This is really cool from David. He attempts a flying armbar, but I'm able to stop his hips from coming close to my head, which is where he would need them for an armbar. Because of the attempt, David is left with both his legs on the same side of my body. David could have lassoed my right arm with his left leg to regain his guard, but I passed before he can establish a guard. David is looking to wrestle me to avoid the guard pass. I know the grips on my pants will be hard to break with a sprawl, so instead I grab the single to wrestle him right back. He pulls guard though into half guard. Now I'm just trying to smash that knee shield down. He senses it's a losing battle, so takes it out. I can feel his half guard is a little open, so I step over the knee to take mount. David bumps and shrimps to escape. I'm still heavy and smashing the knees together though. David reaches across, likely to pull my body over his to regard. In the process, I grab his head and step over to take the back. I keep my grip shallow so I can sneak in the slick Ezekiel choke from the back. The Ezekiel from the back is a little different from the Ezekiel from mount or guard because the arm is in the choke. I already have my forearm in the right spot, so I just leave it there. Now I grab my sleeve. I want to put the blade of my wrist on David's neck to cut off the blood to the brain on one side, while my forearm does the same thing on the other side. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're still here, make sure to leave a comment or a fist bump. I really appreciate everyone watching and all the support. Thank you guys so much.